Welcome to Salento with Love. I'm Davide Mengoli and thank God it's Friday. And today we are going to go technical because when purchasing a property in Italy, there are certain things which you need to know. We've been getting some questions as a result of some of the Q&As that I've been doing over the last few months. I did a Q&A on the 13th of July called Buying in Italy, Taxes and Fees. In this particular Q&A, I'm going to explain in details how to calculate the imposta di registro. What's the imposta di registro? Well, if you're in Australia, you may know the imposta di registro also as a transaction duty. I don't know everything, but I have printed some material. Or if you are in the United States, it's also called transfer tax. If you're in England, stamp duty. In Italy, imposta di registro is the amount of money that the country wants when you are actually buying real estate. So it's a tax on your purchase. And in the United States, in some states, it's very, very small or is not existent at all. And it can be up to, I think, probably around about 4 or 5% in some states. Or in some cases, it can actually be split between the buyer and the seller. But we're talking about Italy. It's interesting because when we talk about a percentage in Italy of the imposta di registro, it's quite scary because we hear a number which is 9%. Yes, 9%. And a lot of people think, wow, 9% of 300,000 euros, it's a lot of money. But it's not 9% of the purchasing price. Although, without confusing anybody, it can be 9% of the purchasing price in some commercial or business acquisitions. But let's go back to purchasing a property in Italy and what is the imposta di registro. The imposta di registro in Italy, it's calculated on the cadastral value. Now the first question that you may have is, what is the cadastral value? Well, the definition of the cadastral value is the fiscal value on which the property gets taxed on. So don't wreck your brain around trying to understand how the cadastral value is set up in regards to the property that you are potentially thinking of purchasing. There is no point of doing that. It's much better to try to understand what is the cadastral value of the property that you are potentially going to buy in order for you to calculate exactly what is the percentage that you need to pay. With that in mind, how do you do that? Well, I've got some information. So the first thing to do would be to get onto the agency that it's advertising the property and ask them for 2 pieces of information. But there are 2 pieces of information that you need, which they come from the scheda catastale. There are 2 pieces of information that you could definitely ask your agent. And the first piece of information, you want to ask the class. What class is your property? And they will give you a class. When I talk about a class, I'm talking about a rating. Normally, residential properties that could be A2s, A3s, A4, A5, A6, A7, or luxurious into different categories like an A10, for example. For a better understanding, I would suggest to go online and type into your Google search categorie catastali. So remember this, I'll put it in the link below. In the link below, you would find exactly the website to go to. And although it's all in Italian, when we go into this page, yes, categorie catastali, here we are, tabella. A lovely tabella opens up. When I say a tabella, it's a sheet. Opens up in front of us with Group A, Group B, Group C. Now, you obviously only want to focus on the one that gets sent back to you. So if they say to you, it's an A5, for example, or it's an A3, then you want to go and check out and see the description that you would find on the same page about the A3. I know it's all written in Italian, but Google Translate can be really a good help if you are in a different part of the world. So potentially you can cut and paste this in Google Translate and that will tell you exactly what the category is. Let's go back to us. That gives you an idea of what category your property is, and it's very important. I would say it's crucial for you to understand the category of the property that you are purchasing. Why is it crucial? Well, because if you don't know the category, you're probably buying a property that looks like a residential property, but the category that is actually listed on the cadastral, which is the land registry in Italy, could be a storage. And so without you knowing, you're buying a storage that is actually being listed as a storage on the cadastral, but you are paying residential value. So very, very important to look at that. And it's something that you can verify yourself. So once that piece of information has been given to you, the next piece of information that you need that comes from the scheda catastale, which we said you're probably not going to have access to, it's the rendita catastale. Again, I'll write this in the description, and the link below will give you the exact information. So we want to go onto a website that is called Catasto in Rete. And once we go into the Catasto in Rete, we want to write in the cerca servizio. You can see there is a little space there, like a search. Unfortunately, the website is totally in Italian. You want to put in there calcolo valore catastale. And when you do that, and you do cerca, which is search, here we are, you're going to have a screen that opens up with calcolo valore catastale. And it says seleziona categoria catastale. Now, that's the category. Now, you've been given the category. So let's say now, the category that has been given to you, it's an A3. So we put in there A3 up to A10. Can you see that? All right, but now it says prima casa, non prima casa. We'll go back to that in a second, but let's say non prima casa. Non prima casa means it's not your prime residence in Italy. And in the rendita catastale, which you're also being given by your agency, you have a number which is in euros. So let's say I've got one in front of me, let's say 283 euros and 53 cents. And then we do calcolo. And it's telling us straight away that the valore catastale of that particular property is 35,724.78. Now, from now on, the calculations becomes very easy. If you're paying 9%, you've got to work out 9% on the 35,724 euros. If you're going to pay 2%, you're going to pay 2% on that 35,000. This property that we've taken as an example is a property that was sold only a few months back through Salento with Love for 157,000 euros. And the buyer paid 9%. So can you imagine the difference paying 9% on 157,000 against 9% against 35,000? It's a huge difference. When you hear 9%, just remember it's not 9% of the selling price, but it's 9% of the cadastral value. Very important to acquire these two pieces of information in order for you to have the right amount. Now let's come to the questions that some of you have specifically asked, and then I'll explain in details how it works here in Italy. Because I always say things are simple if you know them. If you're not, then ask the expert. Ed Recchia, 2 months ago, said, thanks, very informative. Can you say how would you find out what the land registry value, valore catastale, is for a particular property address? Well, Ed, I think we've answered that. So the website that you can find the link below in the description can really help you to do that. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, this perhaps is the perfect moment to press on that subscribe button. Thank you very much. Another question came from Zuchichu 582 about a month ago. Question was, thank you for the explanation, very informative. 2 questions. Is this a one-time tax at purchase, or it is a periodic yearly tax? Let me answer the first part of the question. No, this is a one-time tax, which is the same in the UK, the same in Australia, same in the US if it applies. This is your purchasing tax, that you pay once when you're purchasing the property. Question 2. Does a home for a retired expat on an elective residence visa, non-EU citizen, qualify as a primary residence, regardless of properties owned elsewhere? And the answer is yes. If you obtain residency here in Italy, and that is the only property that you own here in Italy, that entitles you to have the taxation reduced to 2% when you purchase a property. We'll go back to the number to close the argument at the end of it. So thank you very much also for asking the question. The last question is Anne-Marie Z2. Excellent video. Well, thank you very much for that. I'll do what I can. Very clearly explained. Take notes. It's always very important to take notes. So thank you very much. I'll try to be clear. If you have dual Italian-American citizenship with a home in America, do you automatically pay 9%? Well, to be honest, Anne-Marie, I can't remember where I replied to the YouTube video that was published on the 13th of July 2020. But the answer is no. You don't automatically pay 9%. Because if you are Italian and you are actually registered with AIRE, and AIRE is Anagrafe Italiani Residenti All'Estero. So let me just open a little bit of a conversation on this because it's very important. So if you are Italian and you were born in Australia, you were born in the US, you were born anywhere else in the world, but you are Italian, you have an Italian passport, then you can register yourself with the Italian consulate in that country with AIRE, A-I-R-E, Anagrafe Italiani Residenti All'Estero. That automatically would allow you to benefit of the opportunity to purchase one property in Italy with a reduced tax regime, which is 2%. So you don't need to be resident. So this needs to be clear. You don't need to be resident in order to take advantage of the 2%. You could be dual citizenship, but you're still Italian. And the interesting thing is that when it comes to purchasing a property, you don't need to submit any proof or evidence to the notary in Italy that you have actually submitted or that you are actually subscribed to the AIRE. It's a self-declaration that you make saying, yes, I'm an Italian citizen, Italian passport, that's sufficient. You're automatically entitled to the 2% tax regime when you purchase your first property in Italy, even if you're not a resident of Italy. Hopefully this point is clear. So, hopefully, Anne-Marie, I've answered your question there. Thank you very much for asking the question. To wrap it all up and to sum it all up, how does it work? You're not a resident, 9%. You're an Italian non-resident, 2%. You are a resident, 2%. Very easy. You are a resident and you're purchasing a second property, 9%. So that 2% advantage is only on your first property, regardless if you're a resident. Even if you live here in Italy and you're Italian, you're only entitled to that 2% tax regime on your first house, la prima casa. After that, it's 9%. Now you have also 18 months to register over here as a resident. So again, when you're purchasing a property, even if you're not a resident, you do have the opportunity to have a self-declaration saying that within the next 18 months, you will register. So you'll be paying 2%. And then you have 18 months to register, and if you don't, then you'll have to pay the balance. Simple, straightforward. Sometimes people purchase properties which have a very small cadastral value, and they're residents. So they look at the cadastral value and they're looking at a property that potentially it's 35,000, like this one that we are looking, and 2% of 35,000, it's a very small amount. But in Italy there is a minimum charge for the imposta di registro. So the stamp duty, the transaction duty, the transfer tax in Italy has a minimum amount. And that minimum amount, it's of 8,000 euros. 1,000 euros. Yes, on top of that, you have another two charges made up of 50 euros each. One, it's the imposta ipotecaria, and the other one is imposta catastale. It's what the notary needs to pay in order to record your deeds. So these two are added onto your 1,000 minimum charge. So even if you're picking up a property that it's 20,000 in Molise, in Calabria, or in Puglia, anywhere in Italy on the mountain, and you think, oh, it's only 20,000, it's a derelict property which I'm going to fix and I'm going to do it up, and I'm working it all out, and the 9% is working out at 350 euros, or the 2% is working out at 150 euros, then no, the minimum charge, it's 1,000. So hopefully this Q&A, it's been clear enough for you to understand how to work out what you need to pay and where you can get the information. Everything will be below in the description. I'll have the links for you to calculate a cadastral value, and also I'll have the link below on how to understand the categories, the different categories. And although it's in Italian, please use Google Translate. Hopefully this was helpful, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Any questions, I'd love to have your questions, because we can answer to your questions directly through these Q&As. Have a fantastic weekend wherever you are in the world, and stay safe.